In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful, I would like to welcome all of you students of today's lesson, which is going to be about Unit 6, reading. Today, inshallah, we are going to state some the benefits to genetic testing, read for a purpose, name the genetic diseases in the text, also read for specific information. As usual, we will start by revising the previous lesson I'm talking about, okay, which is the vocabulary building. Okay, do you remember this exercise from page 87? Very good. Now, you will see these words in the reading on pages 88 and 89. Match the words with their meanings. Okay, let's start. We started with number 1, genetic. What does it mean? Okay, E, of course, related to the part of a cell that contains your parents' characteristics. Okay, so mainly today, inshallah, we will talk about this topic. Number 2, F, which is treatable. What does it mean, treatable? Capable of being cured. Number 3, diagnosis. As you can see, G, we have identification, identifying, okay, or identification of the cause of a problem. Number 4, undergo, which is experience, to go through, okay, when talking about H here, okay. Number 5, inherited, which is D, received from a parent or ancestor. So when I'm talking about the genetic transmission, okay, and we showed that in the previous lesson. Number 6, preventative. What does it mean? C, done in order to avoid or to prevent something, prevent. Number 7, controversial, which is A, causing disagreement. And we talked about, we have the word argumentative, for example, as a synonym for the controversial. Number 8, which is potential. And when I'm talking about B, what does it mean? The possibility. So here, this thing is possible, the possibility of being or doing something. Being or doing something, okay? Actually, you should write all the answers as you can see them on the board. Okay, now, let's start our lesson today by showing you some pictures. Very good. Now, you have looked at these pictures. Can you tell who are they? Okay, let's start with them. Who are they? Of course, they are doctors, okay? So they are discussing some issue or something like that, analysis and so on, okay, between together, okay? And what about this one here? This picture, what can you see? Okay, when you work, for example, in a laboratory or something like that, okay, you would see this, okay, when the doctor asking for your blood or something like that to analyze your blood, okay? So he will take the tube, of course, as you can see here, and try to analyze it and send it to the laboratory to analyze the blood. Actually, but look at this one here. Can you see? I'm talking about the same picture as here we have. The same shape we're talking about, okay? So, yeah, approximately I'm talking about, okay? The same shape here as you can see between these two pictures, okay? Why? Because today mainly, inshallah, we will talk about this, okay? I'm talking about the genetic characteristics and so on, okay? And when you talk about this one, it means that you must go or undergo the genetic testing. Okay, the genetic testing. Now, you're going to see a situation, okay, and of course, in this situation, a friend of yours has been offered an opportunity to undergo, what does it mean undergo? To experience or to go through, okay, genetic testing. Okay, there is a history of a genetic eye condition among the older people in his family, okay, a history I'm talking about. So, he doesn't know much about genetic testing. He is uncertain about having the test. He has asked for your advice. Okay? Now, what are you going to do? You are going to read now on pages 88 and 89. We have an article. You are going to read this article. Then you are going to recommend or to give your friend here an advice. Okay, as I said earlier, how we can, do you remember how we can give opinions and how we can give advice and so on? Okay, do you remember these lessons? Very good. Now you are going to read, okay, on page 88. This is the article, or this is the title of the article, Peeking into Our Medical Future. Okay, and you are going to give your friend the advice that he needs, of course, and of course you are going to recommend the article to your friend. Okay, so we are going to read now on page 88 and 89. So please open your books and we will start reading. We will start reading now. Let's start.
Pages 88 and 89. 8. Reading. Peeking into our medical future. Did you know that a drop of your blood can predict diseases you may develop in the future? This is possible through genetic testing. Testing that analyzes the genetic information found in the cells of your body. Each cell contains a sample of DNA. The information in DNA can help determine a person's risk of developing certain diseases years from now. The most common type of genetic testing is called newborn screening. The goal of newborn screening is to identify treatable genetic disorders in newborn babies. In many countries, infants are screened in the hospital shortly after they are born. Although it is rare to find that a baby has a genetic disorder, those that do have a disorder start receiving treatment right away. This early diagnosis and treatment prevents physical and mental problems, and sometimes even death. Another type of genetic testing is called predictive gene testing. This is used to predict an adult's risk of developing certain diseases later in life. People who undergo this type of genetic testing are usually from a family in which many members have had a particular inherited disease, like certain cancers or Alzheimer's disease. There are many obvious benefits to this kind of testing. A negative test, a test that says a person is not likely to develop a disorder, can bring a tremendous sense of relief. Jen Thompson, who recently underwent predictive gene testing for colon cancer, explains, "So many people in my family died of colon cancer. I worried constantly. When the test came back negative, I felt as if someone had lifted an enormous weight off my shoulders." A positive test has benefits as well. It warns of the need for preventative care, like frequent checkups, dietary changes, medicines, or even the option of surgically removing the part likely to develop the disease. For example, if Thompson's test had been positive, she might have chosen to have her colon removed. There are also some controversial downsides to genetic testing. The value of genetic testing is particularly questionable when testing for a disease that is untreatable. For example, Alzheimer's disease runs in An Lee's family. An has decided to get genetic testing to see if she is likely to develop it. But her husband Bao is not happy about her choice. Bao explains, "If the result is positive, how will it help to know that she will probably develop the disease? If I had the Alzheimer's gene, I wouldn't want to know." Another issue is that even if someone tests positively for a disease, it doesn't mean that they will definitely develop the disease. So a person could spend years worrying about something that never ends up happening. Genetic testing has the potential to impact millions of lives in the future. Many are excited about the future of genetics, while others have deep concerns about it. But for better or for worse, soon we may all have the ability to peek into our medical future.
Very good. Now, can you try to summarize the main or the most point in this article for your friend in order to advise him or to advise him what to do if he either go through this testing or the genetic testing or not? Okay, now if you go back at the first or the beginning of the first, I'm talking about the first paragraph, okay, you would see that here, let's start with, did you know that a drop of your blood can predict, okay, diseases you may develop in the future? Okay, so when I'm talking about this one now, so it means that I need you to give me the main idea about this paragraph. Okay, for example, this is possible through genetic testing. Why? Because now I'm talking about can predict diseases, okay, and starting from the first, okay, or the beginning, like babies, okay. So analyzes the genetic information found in the cells of your body, okay. Each cell contains a sample of DNA, okay. It's the information in DNA can help determine a person's risk of developing certain diseases years from now. So now we are talking about how could the genetic testing help us to identify, for example, or even to see the risk, the person's risk, either developing certain diseases years from now. The most common type of genetic testing is called what? Newborn screening, okay? And actually, this one, or this, the goal of the newborn screening is what? To identify treatable, okay, the word treatable genetic disorders in newborn babies, okay? So from the beginning, okay, they will identify the diseases, okay, from the beginning. In many countries, infants, okay, children, the newborn, okay, babies are screened in the hospital shortly after they are born, okay. Although it is rare to find that a baby has a genetic disorder, but still, okay, it might, okay. So if they have a disorder, start receiving treatment. If they have a disorder, they start receiving treatment right away. Okay, why? Because this early diagnosis and treatment prevents physical and mental problems. Okay, so why we give them treatment, okay, cure them? Because this treatment, this diagnosis and treatment prevents physical and mental problems. Okay, very good. Even death. What about this one now? Another type of genetic testing is called Predictive Gn Testing, okay. And actually, when I'm talking about this one, it means that this is used to predict an adult's risk of developing certain diseases. So it depends on the results, okay. If the result was positive, so they will get treatment, okay. And as you can see, but if the result is negative, for example, what I'm talking about here, okay, they will be relieved, okay, and worry less, okay. So here, as you can see, adult risk of developing certain diseases later in life. People who undergo this type of genetic testing are usually from a family, okay, and in which many members have had particular inherited, okay, the same genetic transmission, our family, because, okay, diseases like certain cancers or Alzheimer's disease, okay, as I said earlier. Now, what will happen also, there are many obvious benefits to this kind of testing, okay, which is the negative one. We talked about this. If the result was negative, okay, this that says a person is not likely to develop a disorder. Sometimes the result will be positive, okay, but the person will not develop a disease, or the disease will be not developed, okay. So they will get rest assured that, or make sure that the disease will not develop, okay. So they must do this kind of test. Okay, there are also some controversial downsides to genetic testing. Of course, the disagreements, points of disagreements, okay. The value of genetic testing is particularly questionable. The value, okay, when testing for a disease that is untreatable, okay, so testing or going through, or the value of going through this test, okay, and of course, the disease that is not or untreatable, for example, Alzheimer's disease runs in Anne Lee's family, okay, Anne has decided to go or to get genetic testing to see if she likely to develop it, okay. So now I'm talking about the untreatable disease, okay. Also, her husband, Bo, is not happy about her choice, okay. So here, now I'm talking about the controversial points here, disagreements. Like Bo explained, if the result is positive, okay, why? Because the family, the Anne Lee's family runs Alzheimer's disease, for example. How will it help to know that she will probably develop the disease? Now, this one is questionable, as you can see. I'm talking about questionable, this word, okay. It will be or describe something that have a lot of questions, okay, doubtful, okay. Very good. If I had the Alzheimer's gene, for example, I wouldn't want to know, okay. Sometime people or person doesn't want to know, okay, if they develop disease from the gene or not, okay. Another issue is that even if someone tests positively for a disease, it doesn't mean that they will definitely develop the disease. It doesn't mean that, okay. So here, so a person could spend years worrying. Why? About something that never ends up happening, okay. I'm talking about developing the disease itself, okay. Then, genetic testing has the potential. What does it mean potential? We talk about, yeah, the possibility we're talking about, okay, to impact millions of lives in the future. Many are excited about the future of genetics, while others have deep concerns about it, okay. But for better or for worse, soon we may all have the ability to peek into our medical future. Now, as you can see, we tried here to give you the main or the most important points of this article. Now, we summarized this one. Now I'm waiting for your advice for the friend, the first situation at the beginning of this lesson. We say the situation your friend is asking you, should he undergo this test or genetic testing, okay, or not, okay. Very good. Now, let's move. Look here, we have two words. The first one is treatable, very good, and the second one is untreatable. Good. Now, can you show me, okay, or can you identify the main part of the two words here we have? Because why? Because treatable and untreatable are opposites, as you can see here. Okay, as you can see, they don't have the same meaning. Okay, very good. So when I'm talking about treatable and untreatable, okay, the word treat, okay, the word, for example, here talking about treat, okay, is similar as in treatable and in untreatable. Now, let me ask you, what does mean treatable? Something treatable. Okay, when I'm talking about diseases, and we mentioned that earlier. Treatable, when I'm talking about disease, it means that something or the disease will be cured, okay, can be cured, okay. But when I'm talking about untreatable, the disease cannot be cured, okay, cannot be cured, as you can see here. And also, when I'm talking about able, for example, here, okay, able, or sometime with some other words or adjectives. We're using the IPL, E, of course. Okay, what does it mean when I use these two? When I add them, for example, to verbs to give me another part of a speech, which is adjective, as you can see here. Very good. Okay, it gives us the possibility of something, okay, treatable, that we can treat this thing, okay, or can cure, for example, this disease. So here, able and the IBL, E here, for example, when we add it to the verb, it will become an adjective, of course. And it means that the possibility of thing. What about un? Here, as you can see, un. Actually, when I'm talking about un, it means the opposite. Something is not. For example, when I'm talking about treatable, here, this is untreatable. This is untreatable. Actually, able and IBL here I'm talking about are called suffix. We talked about suffixes earlier, okay? Suffix, okay? What about this one using un? Un is called prefix. What is the difference between the prefixes and suffixes? When I'm talking about suffix and prefix, okay, here we have un, for example, as you can see, the place, okay, or the location of the prefix here, as you can see in the front or the beginning of the word, okay? So un give us the opposite of the word, okay? As in a treatable, okay, untreatable, okay? So it's, the disease, as you can see here, okay, cannot be cured, okay? While here in a treatable, it means that the disease is going to be cured. Very good. Now, you are going to see some words here, as you can see. Prevent, preventable, predict, predictable, question, questionable, also excitable, and irresistible. Now, I want you to guess, okay? Guess now, what does it mean, all these words, okay? Preventable, predictable, questionable, and excitable, and irresistible. Can you guess the meaning of these words? Very good. Let's start seeing now how we can predict this. For example, prevent. It describes something that can be prevented. What about predictable? It describes something that can be predicted, okay, to guess or predict, okay. What about questionable? Describes something that is doubtful, okay, and you can question it, as you can see or you have seen in the previous paragraph. Excitable describes someone who can easily become excited. Finally, irresistible. Where did you see this one? Irresistible. In the previous lesson, okay? So very good when we talked about the listening lesson, okay? Describes something that cannot be resisted. Cannot be resisted, okay? Very good. Now we will move to the after reading. Are going to answer true or false. Please read the 5 sentences we have here. Let's start with number 1. To get a sample of DNA, doctors must draw a large quantity of blood. Number 2. Newborn screening is not a common type of genetic testing. We talked about this. Number 3. Predictive gene testing can be done for treatable and untreatable disorders. 4. A positive test generally brings great relief to the test taker. Number 5. If someone tests positively for a disease, they will definitely develop the disease. And actually we mentioned and we talked about all these points, okay, in the article. Now let's go see the answers. Number 1, to start, true or false? It is false. To get a sample of DNA, doctors must draw a large quantity of blood, which is wrong, okay? It's false. Number 2, newborn screening is not, okay? So I'm talking about here. Look for keywords, guys. Look for keywords is not a common type of genetic testing, which is also false. Okay. Number 3, predictive gene testing can be done for treatable and untreatable, and this one actually is true. Okay. Number 4, a positive test generally brings great relief to the test taker. A positive test generally, no, actually it's false. And finally, if someone tests positively for a disease, they will definitely develop. No, it's not. We said that even the test or the result were positive, okay, sometimes the disease will not be developed. Okay, very good. Now let's go back, seeing the objective of today's lesson. State the benefits to genetic testing, read for a purpose, then name the genetic diseases in the text, and finally read for specific information. And we have done all of these objectives of today. I would like to thank all of you for watching us, and inshallah I will see you at the next lesson. Goodbye.